Welcome to Creepin' It Real. I am Judah. Let's talk about Hellboy The Crooked Man. Now, if you're still watching this video, congratulations, you've made it to the average viewing point. Now, if you want to be above average in anything, stick around, watch till the end, and leave a comment, and you will be part of that 10% that actually watches the whole thing and is above average. Let's get watching this trailer and see what this is all about.
Something in these hills. Something haunted. Evil. It smells like death.
How do you know that?
Dark things called dark things.
I heard tales about him all my life. Most just called him the Crooked Man.
Okay, first of all, that scene just a second ago where it shows that character in the background and does a head tilt thing. There was a time when whoever originally showed that, it was very creepy. And it came off creepy and, unnerving. But it's so tropey now that when I first saw this trailer and that happened, I just rolled my eyes. I was like, here we go again, just another trash reboot of Hellboy. Now this scene here with the train, with me being down in the corner, you may not be able to pick it up. I loved this scene, and it's just so simple, and I can imagine some of you hearing me go, why did you like this? And it's just something that I liked. You will see the train come and zoom past the camera, but then at some point, it's almost like the train grabs the camera and the camera is moving with the train. I just really liked that choice. You'll see here in a second. I just like that. Okay. They use a lot of practical effects in this movie, and I'm always pro practical effects over CG. And for the most part, they use practical effects. That snake, it's not hideous, but it was CG, and it did take me out of the movie. It wasn't the worst CG I've ever seen, but it also wasn't fantastic.
We've got company.
All your friends, they all gonna die.
When I first, this movie came out of nowhere for me. I had no idea that they were working on another reboot. I have no knowledge of the source material for Hellboy at all. So this review may be a little frustrating for those of you who have deep knowledge of the source material. I understand and recognize things now from a different perspective than I once did. I was raised on The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, very steeped in, the J.R.R. Tolkien world, and actually did read the Silmarillion. I also grew up on Star Wars, the original 3, and I read the Extended Universe books. Now, I'm not going to lie, a lot of those books were garbage, but that Timothy Zahn, Heir to the Empire, that 3-book trilogy was amazing. So then we got Amazon Prime, who gets involved in Lord of the Rings, and they just crap all over the lore of J.R.R. Tolkien, and it pissed me off. I was so angry at the disrespect that they showed towards the purpose of J.R.R. Tolkien. And they thought, oh no, we're going to make it our own. We're going to put in our own vision and our own, meaning and purpose behind this. And the same with Disney. They took Star Wars and they just shit all over the lore of George Lucas. Now I can see people who have maybe no knowledge of the source material or the lore. They could come in, start watching Disney Star Wars, start watching Prime Lord of the Rings of Power, and be like, oh, this is awesome. because they have no love and they have no roots into the actual lore of the original creator. So I now have a new appreciation for those who do love the origins of Hellboy, created by, let's see here, Mike Mignola. Here's the creator right here. My first introduction to Hellboy was the Guillermo del Toro films. And from what I read, Mike and Guillermo were in constant conversations about this movie. Like, they were in talks about this movie for years before it even started filming. So Mike was heavily involved in that. And I loved those movies. I just adored them. And I was super pissed off that it was coming out that there was not going to be a third to that Guillermo story. Very frustrated. And also kind of the stories that were coming out were that Mike was unhappy with the direction that Guillermo was taking it, and therefore that was why there was not going to be a third movie. Well, now, in doing my research for this Crooked Man movie, I've come to find that there was a, what they call artistic differences when it came to Hellboy and the Golden Army, that Mike, a creator of Hellboy, wanted it to go one direction, and then Guillermo decided to go with his Golden Army direction instead. Now, when you look into interviews with both of these men, they both kind of, when people address, so there was a scuffle between you two, there was a falling out, they both kind of go, look, man, when you have two artists, there's always going to be artistic disagreements, and brothers are going to fight. But it really sounds like it was just kind of like I wanted to go this way, he wanted to go that way, he took it that way. It is what it is. He's saying it really wasn't him who was keeping a third movie from being made, that it was the studio. That the studios were just looking at what it was that Guillermo wanted to do, and they're like, the budget it'll take to pull off your vision is not worth what these movies are pulling in. And I totally get that. That makes sense. That doesn't mean I'm not bummed. But at the same time, the studios were intent on continuing to make Hellboy movies. So they were just faced with this decision. Okay, we're not going to continue in Guillermo's vision. So what do? We're going to go with a new director. And if we're going to go with a new director who's not going to finish Guillermo's vision, should we just get rid of Ron Perlman? Let's just do a full reboot with David Harbour, who most of us know from Stranger Things. So they come up with this reboot, David Harbour, and I'm not going to lie, I was pissed off. I wanted to see my third Guillermo, and I heard some rumbles that Mike felt that this reboot was closer to his vision. Now, before doing my research, I was kind of like, okay, sorry, Mike. I know that you're the creator of Hellboy, but I like Guillermo's vision way more. But now with my research, I see that, that wasn't really how it went, and that Mike was heavily involved in those movies and, had a hand in all of it. That David Harbour Hellboy movie was, in my opinion, horrendous. So then I'm just, on YouTube watching stuff. And then I happened to see a YouTuber by the name of Mr. H say something about a new Hellboy movie. And I'm like, what? I'm like, please tell me they're not going to keep going with the David Harbour thing. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. So I start watching this video, again, like out of nowhere. And I see, no, it's another reboot. And I'm just like, oh Lord, why can they not just give us what we all want? We all want the third Guillermo movie. Why can't you just give us that movie? Now, this is where comes in my whole now being able to relate to people when it comes to Star Wars and it comes to Lord of the Rings. Now understanding that there are a group of people out there that were not happy with the Guillermo. They didn't feel that it presented the original artwork of Mike Mignola. Again, my apologies, Mike, for having such a hard time saying your last name. And so now I can respect that. that there is that group of people that are hardcore Hellboy fans that are not happy with the vision of those first two movies. This second reboot, this fourth movie, just like the first reboot, the third movie, is not for me. I don't care. I don't want this character to be ruined anymore for me. I'm not going to watch it. I'm at home. I see it pop up in Prime. And I'm like, okay, let's give this a try. And I'm not going to lie, it wasn't that bad. Into the review, not that bad. This storyline did not have a world-ending kind of grand involvement. The second Hellboy movies and the first reboot, they all were like these huge, massive stories that had to do with the end of the world. This reboot is not large. It's not world-ending. It's very personal. It's just about Hellboy, his partner, and this small backwoods community that is dealing with an entity that walks around taking people's souls. Very small, very local. The budget was $20 million. And since we're talking about budget, let's talk about the box office. It only got back $1.5 million. But let's be clear that this was only released in cinema to a few countries, like maybe 3 outside of the States, and it went straight to video on demand in the US. So that number is going to be a little wonky, and I don't know if we're ever going to be able to know if it made back its money. 20 million is not necessarily considered a low budget movie, but it is lower budget when you compare it to the Guillermo movies or some kind of a Marvel movie. I feel they knew what they had to work with, and I think they gave a product that worked very well with their limitation of money. Now, do I think this is better than the Guillermo movies? Absolutely not. Those two movies are up there in some of my favorite movies to watch. No, it doesn't compare, but it is way better than the David Harbour movie. I didn't like the way the new guy looked as Hellboy, but I got over that, and I felt he played the Hellboy character quite well. Will I watch this movie again? I would say probably not, but if somebody asked me to watch it with them, I definitely wouldn't feel an aversion to it. I wouldn't be like, oh gosh, I don't want to watch that. The David Harbour one, if somebody asked me to watch it with them, I'd be like, I don't want to watch that movie. This one, I'd be like, sure, let's give it a go. When it's all said and done, I think the scaled down storyline and being more personal worked well with the smaller budget. I think they pulled it off. I think the sour taste I got from the David Harbour movie definitely tainted my expectations for this movie. And maybe because of that, the fact that they delivered a somewhat decent movie worked in their favor. The CG was not fantastic. It was not hideous, but it was not fantastic. Also, I'm tired of holy men, clergymen, men of the cloth being depicted as pieces of trash. They're all garbage. I enjoyed and appreciated the way that this priest or holy man of the church was depicted in this movie. He was a man of God, but he also had flaws. Being that they're still people, they're still going to make mistakes, but they're not trying to hide or diminish or cover up so they can continue in those sins. This was a man. He had sins. He dealt with them, and he moved on, and he did not go back to them. I appreciated that representation. And I've kind of appreciated that with most of these Hellboy movies, you know, the struggle of Hellboy in all of them, kind of like, I've been born to be this thing, but I don't have to be. I can make a choice and I can change. I don't have to be what everybody says that I am. I can be that better person. I don't have to let my past shape my future. Now, there's always going to be residuals from choices that we make. You've planted something, it's going to grow, but you can stop planting those things. You can start planting better seeds for your life. And I've always liked the kind of metaphor or the representation from these movies that presents. I would recommend this if you are a fan of the comics. I can't tell you whether or not you will like this because I never read the comics. I don't know. If you were a fan of the Guillermo and you were upset about the David Harbour movie, I would say, is this on the same level as Guillermo? No, but they do a good job, and I would give it a try. You're not going to get the Guillermo movie. It's never going to happen. We all have to deal with that. But this one is good for the budget it had. I think they told a decent story. I think it was acted for the most part well. If this is the direction it's going to continue, and this is as good as it's going to get, and this is the most they're going to put into a budget, we could definitely do worse. This is Judah. This has been Creepin' It Real. Please like, subscribe, and share. Leave your comments. If you've watched this movie, I would love a discussion about Hellboy. If you're a big comic book fan, your frustration with which movies and which ones you felt represented it the best, I want to know your thoughts. I really would love to hear it. Do you agree with, I'm hearing a lot of people trash on this movie, but I'm also hearing a lot of people say it's not so bad. And I obviously fall in the it's not so bad. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'd really love to hear it. Really love to talk about it. Thanks for watching. Bye.